Welcome to the Naked Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, nutritionist Michaela Schifferly, the founder of KJ Wellness. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things nutrition and wellness. We'll cut through the bullshit information out there, debunk health myths, interview health experts, and give you actionable steps to help you become the best version of yourself. So go grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee and strap in to hear the cold hard truths about health. Welcome back to the Naked Wellness Podcast. I am so excited for today's episode because I have Lauren with me, and Lauren helps women to really build confidence within themselves, to empower them, which I think is just amazing. And I was saying before we even started recording, like everything that she says, you're just like, holy shit. Like that has just pivoted for me. That has landed with me. I need to go and take action in areas of my life. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you. What an amazing welcome. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited for this episode. Did you want to start off by sharing with us your journey, like what got you to where you are today with helping people or women in this area?
Yeah. Wow. How deep do you want to go? Okay. So my journey, I'd say, well, let's start from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I started dancing when I was a little girl, and I, from 3 years old, and, mum would drag me in screaming and crying. I was that girl that, didn't want to go. I absolutely hated it because I was so attached to my mum and all that kind of stuff. And then I started to love it, and I started to truly, it became my passion. It became, I was there every Saturday. Like my mum and dad could have probably like saved for a house the amount of money they spent on my dancing career. And so I absolutely loved it. I fell in love, and it became my outlet. So up on stage, I was like this really confident woman. Like I was just like, yeah, like this, you have the stage there, and then the audience, like you can't see anyone in the audience. So up on stage, I was this really confident being. Like I was at the front. I loved it. It was my thing. It was my jam, right? And then throughout school, I wasn't as confident. So when we're younger in primary school, there's, I guess it's kind of common for the bullying to happen and all that kind of stuff. So I was in a group that I felt like I couldn't be myself around. And I always felt like I was trying to fit in. I wanted to fit in, or like I would go away, or I would be sick for a day and then I would come back and then I would be left out. And so I was like crying every night going home to my mum. Like I hated it. I hated school. And so it was like these two different personalities, right? This confident woman or confident little girl up on stage. And then back in school, it was like, no, like I don't want to be here. I hate this. And so, and then throughout my childhood as well, my family environment wasn't the greatest. So my dad was an alcoholic, and I was like that was tough for me as a kid. And I, like my parents smoked, and I was like a little activist child. Like I would go around the house and have like signs up being like no smoking, and like it was crazy. And so like growing through that as a child, it definitely built up my resilience. So like all of the challenges that came with that, of seeing it, feeling it, experiencing it all in and out of hospital and whatnot, whilst it was tough, it built this strong woman within me, basically. And I learned a lot that from my mum as well, and becoming the strong one, right? So I suppressed a lot of my emotions, and I tried to be the fixer and do all the things all the time. And then, so I got to the end of school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I went traveling, and then I went and danced overseas as well. I lived in New York. Like I was in a long-term relationship at the time as well. And it was like my time to kind of like come out of my shell. Like, I had left primary school and high school, which wasn't the greatest. High school was actually a lot better. But it was my time to shine kind of thing. And then I had stepped into hospitality and to try and make my dad proud as well. And then I came back, and being in hospitality, I was in stressful jobs. I was working all the time. And then my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so that was a massive turning point for me. Again, it was a mix of all of these emotions surfacing of, I have so much guilt now. Because obviously he got sicker, and so he passed away the following year in 2015. And from that moment, that was when my healing journey really began as well. So I noticed that I started developing all of these gut issues and all of this health stuff. And I actually started studying nutritional medicine at one point as well, but then I decided studying just isn't for me at that age again. And so, yeah, I'd started developing all of these gut issues. I kind of threw myself back into my events course and work, and that was my mentality, just kind of like, okay, move on. Like, you know, you've dealt with this, and I say that in inverted commas. You've dealt with this, and just move through it. Like, you know, you're the strong one. You got this. You can do this, and I totally could. And it was manifesting as dis-ease in my body. What I know now with the work that I do, a lot of the stuff held in our gut is anger and conflict and grief, and you know, the label of IBS and whatnot. And so I started my healing journey, and I went to my first personal development event. I had just come out of my long-term relationship as well. We ended that, and yeah, I went to my first personal development event, and everything changed. Like, I did my first breathwork journey. Like, I went to this event thinking I was going to be healing my relationship that I'd just come out of, and I ended up doing all this work on my dad. And so that was essentially where it all began. And from that moment, like, I've always had the teaching in me, because I taught dance as well for, 16 years. Like, in my dance career, it was probably about 20 years. So then I did my first self-development course, and I fell in love with it. I had the teaching already within me, and I wanted more. So it kind of became like, you step into the personal development world and you kind of become a bit of a junkie, right? And so I stepped in, I was like, oh my God, I love this. And then I started doing all of the events, I went to Tony Robbins and all that kind of stuff. And then I took myself off to South America to go and find myself, right? And I say that with commas again. And people were either like, South America, what the fuck? Like, you're going on your own. Or other people were like, oh my God, like, that's amazing. So it was like two sides of the coin, right? And it was something that I'd always wanted to do. Like, if I get something in my mind that I want to do it, I'm just like, okay, like, how are we going to make this happen? Whether it, like, there may be some, I get quite in my analytical mind, but then come back into the heart and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. So it's just like ripping the Band-Aid off, right? Anyway, so I took myself off to South America, and I fell in love with it. And then 6 weeks in, COVID hit, and I had to come home. And didn't have the breakthrough that I wanted and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and then fast forward, I moved up to the Gold Coast. I decided, like, I had done that first event. I moved up to the Gold Coast, and I'd only been there once. I was like, okay, like, this is the next chapter. This is the next step. And then I studied my NLP training, and the rest is kind of history. And then, I fell into a community there, and, I was doing my coaching business, and here we are kind of today. Now I'm actually back in Sydney again today. And so that's, in a nutshell, that would be my journey. My passion is helping women own who they are through, like, no one is determined by their past experiences. Everybody has the ability to choose and change and step into the woman that she is and get like let go of the strong mask, let go of all the shit, and step in. And I know that was super long and
no, but so powerful. Yeah. And I think that's exactly right. And I think it's so incredible that you help women do that as they are already, because I guess in my field of work, a lot of the time I hear and see, oh, well, when I lose weight or when I fit into this box that is accepted by society, that's when I'll be confident, and that's when I'll be, you know, empowered and be able to do whatever I want to do because I'm in this little box. But it's like, but there is no magic cure, you know, losing that weight or doing whatever it is it not going to magically make you have all of this self-confidence, right? It all comes from within.
Absolutely. These boxes that we put around ourselves, that we doing the things that we think we should do or that we think society says that we should do, or family or friends, it's all bullshit, right? We get to come back to what it is that we actually want and then do the things that are going to lead us to get us to where we want to go. And even if that scares the hell out of us, and that's what builds self-confidence. Like that's one of the biggest things, right? It's doing the things when you're scared. It's when, you know, the palms are shaking, when like the heart is like totally pounding out of your chest, and knowing that everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Everyone starts somewhere. Like you're not going to get better if you don't step out and just do the thing that scares you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of people, because they may have felt like they've been confident at some other point in their life. So it's like, oh, well, I want to get back to that. And so I guess like one of my questions for you is like, why do we lose self-confidence to even start with?
So many answers to this. Let me give two. Okay. So firstly, doing the things that we say we're going to do, right?
Yep.
When we, for example, I'm talking to you listeners, you say that you want to start a new routine or, you know, eat something different or go to the gym or whatever it is. You say, okay, I'm going to go tomorrow. And then you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't really want to do that. Like, I'm just going to I'll do it tomorrow. And what that does is it tells our unconscious mind. So if you were to visualize an iceberg, right? And the tip of the iceberg is our conscious mind. And that's everything that we're aware of, right? That's, you know, our analytical mind, our decisions, all of that kind of stuff. And then our unconscious mind, which is the part underneath that you can't see of the iceberg, right? That's underneath the water. And that's all of our beliefs, values, memories, intuition, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what that does is it's telling our unconscious mind, oh, okay, well, you don't really do the things that you say that you're going to do. Like, well, can I really trust you? Like, okay, well, we'll try again tomorrow. So then you get to tomorrow and you're like, nah, I don't really want to do the thing. And so then that sends a current to your unconscious mind and says, oh, okay, well, you really don't do the things that you say you're going to do. So like, I've just lost total trust in you. I've lost confidence in you. And hence why that we then feel shit about ourselves because we don't do the things that we say that we're going to do. Whereas if you get up in that next morning, even when you feel like shit, when you don't want to do the thing or whatever it is that you've got going on, and knowing that you get to have self-compassion for yourself as well, if you do the thing regardless, that tells your unconscious mind, oh my God, we can do this. Like, even when we do the hard things, we've got this. Or like, we felt like shit today, like, and we really didn't want to get out of bed, but we did it. And so then that creates integrity. I call it integrity momentum, because you're living in integrity with what you say that you're going to do. You do the things that you say you're going to do. So then that therefore builds your self-confidence. And it's one of the biggest things that builds self-trust and self-love is doing the things that you say you're going to do. And so that's one of the things why I believe we lose self-confidence. And then two is it's what we as humans make things mean. And what I mean by that is you've got two people, right? And an event happens. Let's say they go through a breakup. Each person goes through a different breakup. And so this event happens and the unconscious mind takes it in and it distorts, deletes, and generalizes based on their values, beliefs, everything. The imprint stage is between 0 and 7. So all of those values and beliefs are formed during that stage. And so what the unconscious mind does is it takes on, and knowing that our unconscious mind takes on 2 million bits of information are thrown at us every second. So if you imagine 2 million toothpicks being thrown at you, it's like, what the fuck? How can I handle this? And so our unconscious mind can only take on 134 bits per second. So what it does is it deletes, distorts, and generalizes. And so it filters out all of the rest of that stuff based on what we think is important, based on our experiences, our values and beliefs and whatnot that have been formed through that imprint stage from 0 to 7, from our childhood or whatever has happened during that time. And so this breakup happens, right? And let's say one particular person has maybe not had the greatest childhood or didn't receive the love that they wanted, or insert XYZ reason, right? And then another person has had maybe a better childhood or has had different values, beliefs, and experiences formed. And so person A creates a meaning that, I'm not good enough, this is horrible, I hate this. And person B creates a meaning of okay, well, let's just move on, right? So our unconscious mind then creates an internal representation, so what we're making that mean, which then determines our state, which is, okay, person A might feel sad and cry and stay stuck in this loop and be really upset, and knowing that both is totally okay. I just want to preface that, we all have our own experiences, and this person may be experiencing it this way, and the other person B, may think, okay, well, yeah, that was a bit shit, but I'm feeling empowered to go on to the next person or whatnot. And so then that determines our behavior, which is what we're going to do. So person A may, be in bed crying for weeks, days, months, whatever it is. And then the other person may go out and find the next date or whatever it is, right? So that's determining our behavior, and then which will then determine our outcome or our result. So, okay, what essentially is going to happen. So that, back to your question of why we lose self-confidence is, these events, these experiences happen in our lives based on our model of the world, and it's what we make things mean, essentially, and we can choose to then do the inner work and release all of that to be able to move forward.
I love that. And I think the first one that you said, kind of also how actions speak louder than words, is so powerful. And I remember I had a conversation with somebody one time and they were asking me, because they were like, well, I tell myself affirmations every single day. I stand in front of the mirror and I read these affirmations. Why don't I actually think like that or believe them? And it's like, okay, well, what are the daily actions that you are taking? Are you saying one thing but then going and doing a completely different thing?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll even go a bit deeper on that, is we can say all of the affirmations, we can say all of the things to ourselves in the mirror, but if we don't unconsciously believe it, then it's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
So it's about uncovering. That's why the power of the inner work and, working out what unconsciously do you actually believe based on what's happened in your life or whatnot, and being able to rewire, and if it's not what you want, that is, and being able to rewire and reshift it to what it is that you actually want, so you actually believe the things that you say in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, that's where shadow work and all that kind of stuff comes in. It's all the layers of the onion.
Yes, unpacking so much. And I think we live in a world where it's easier for us to put ourselves down than it is to talk ourselves up in front of people. And I even used the example the other day of, even if you think back to school, when you were doing a test and people would be like, oh, you know, did you study for the test? And it was like this unspoken thing that everyone would deny that they studied for the test. It's like, no, I didn't do any work. And then coming out of the test, it's like, how did you go? And everyone would be like, oh, terrible, like no good. Even if you sitting in that test, you actually thought that you did really well, you knew all the answers. Or even about ourselves, like I know growing up for me, like if I was ever to say that, oh, like I actually think I look good in this dress today, or you know, anything like that, or I think I did really well in that. It's like, oh, like you shouldn't say that about yourself. Like, be careful of, you know, what you're making other people feel by talking yourself up. And I think, like, everything you were saying, I was kind of reflecting on all of that and being like, when you constantly suppress yourself like that, surely that would also have an impact on your confidence.
Absolutely. And it's this thing in society, right? That, you know, it's modest to think that way. It's modest to think shit about yourself. Like I used to have this unconscious belief that it was modest to not take compliments, to not talk myself up. And there's this, whether you're familiar with it, the tall poppy syndrome, right? Yeah. And it's very common in Australia. Not so much in America, but Australians. So for example, for the listeners, you imagine a field of poppies, right? And there's one that decides that it's actually growing a little bit higher. It's growing faster than the other people, than the other poppies. And then the farmer decides, okay, I'm going to come and chop that down so that it's at the same level as everyone else. And that's what a lot of society does. It's, you know, when we see someone growing, or when we see someone reaching their potential, what it's really doing is it's bringing out something in someone else because they're not reaching their potential. Right? And so it's why it's so important that we get to celebrate ourselves. We totally get to celebrate ourselves, because as you say, when we celebrate ourselves, we build that self-confidence. If we're consistently putting ourselves down and telling ourselves, oh, like, you know, I could have done this better and blah, 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 well, how's that going to make you feel? Like your thoughts determine your state, which determine your behaviors. Like just exactly what we were talking about before. If you're going to think shitty thoughts, then you're going to feel like shit, right? What would happen if you actually decided to, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I feel like, look at me go. How is that going to increase your state and your vibration, and then attract more of what it is that you want? And, you know, that comes down to environment as well, who you're hanging around with. And yeah, so many different, oh my God, I feel like I'm just like, woo.
Yeah, it's so good, because you're right. And I think it's something that is so easily overlooked by society as well, like the whole mindset, self-confidence, like working from within, and especially on health journeys. It's so easy for us to just automatically jump to exercise and food, and it's all great, but like you need to focus on more like within yourself, because if you're constantly, you know, going from diet to diet, or you can stick on something well for, let's say, 8 weeks, but then you're back to square one again, or you feel like you've failed, and then it's, oh, I'll go find something else again for another 6 weeks, and something else after those 6 weeks. It's like, okay, but you know, what is the reoccurring factor here of why it keeps failing? And I think a lot of the time, and maybe it's because it is a lot of fucking work to unpack and open all of the doors to get down to the root cause of why do you feel like this?
Absolutely, totally. It's about, okay, what's the pattern here? What am I avoiding as well? Like, that's one thing. Like, I know when I full transparency here, like, you know, I'm a total open book. Like,
Yeah.
I work from home being an entrepreneur, and like I'll go over to the fridge like maybe 1,000 times a day, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what am I avoiding right here? Oh no, I've got to do the work. Like, what am I, or am I bored, or what is it that what's behind this? Why am I going for the food, or whatever it is? And when we can uncover those patterns and then essentially interrupt the pattern and do something completely different, that's when we start to change it. And I think also in terms of food as well, it's like I was saying, you know, that imprint stage of
Yeah.
our childhood, we take on unconsciously the values and beliefs of our parents and our caregivers or whoever's around us. So like potentially, if I speak from experience, like with my mum, absolutely love her to death. And,
Yeah.
you know, she loves sweets and she loves like just going for the food. And so I recognized in the past that was a pattern of mine as well, or that she talked quite negatively to herself. So
Yeah.
unconsciously, I took that on. And this is absolutely no, you know, everybody's doing the best that they can with the resources that
100%.
they have. And they, you know, have taken it on from their environment and their parents and whatnot. And it's just, you know, especially in this generation now, we have all of these tools and we're learning all about this now. And, you know, we're doing all the inner work. And, you know, my mom often says, so she's like, oh, what's that? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's so many factors that it's yeah, absolutely getting to the root cause.
Yeah, and I can totally relate with that, with growing up with my parents and food as well. And you're exactly right. It's nothing against them. Still love them. Like that hasn't impacted that at all. But it's like now that we are aware of that ourselves, we can then change the future and change the steps forwards, which I think is pretty cool as well. When you first realize it, it is easy to almost pass blame and be like, oh, like, why did you do that? Or, but at the end of the day, you're right. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And if that's all they know because that's what they've been taught, but we then have control to kind of break that generational information being fed to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have the power. If you put your power in someone else's hands, then it's in someone else's hands. Like it's as simple as that, right? So you're then becoming a victim to your circumstances. So it's about taking that power back. Okay, what can I do to change this? Like I create my reality. It's all on me.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And taking that full control back and putting it on something like, well, I can do the inner work is actually really powerful in itself, because you're like, okay, well, I'm reacting to all these things because there's something that actually I need to work on myself. And I think then that if you get frustrated at somebody or like that resentment, it's kind of cool to be like, oh, actually, like, let me take a deeper look inside this of why I'm having this reaction, why I feel that way. And when I say like this is something that's overlooked, I think it's also overlooked in the fact that this actually has such an impact on your life and the direction that you want to go in and your ability to reach the goals, whatever your goals are.
Absolutely. The power of radical self-responsibility will change your life. And it can be one of the most liberating and scary as fuck things to do ever. Because it's like, oh, okay, it's literally on me. And I have the power to change this, to change my circumstances in any given moment. And every situation outside of us is a reflection of our internal world. We are creating it in any given moment. So when we can come back to us and be like, okay, how is this me? How am I creating this right now? And it's by no means to blame ourselves. I remind you, please, by no means to blame yourself. It's to come back to, okay, how can I create this? And that's where we, you know, I can start talking about perception as projection. And sometimes it can be, okay, I've potentially done this in the past, or maybe this is what I need to do more of now. And how can I change this? How can I show up differently? Or how can I resolve this within myself so that it is reflected in my external world?
Mm. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's an easy thing to do either. And I know for me personally as well, like working in a large weight loss company for such a long period of time, I saw how many people do pass blame so quickly and so easily as well. Like even if it's small things of like, how was your week? How did you go on the food side of things? And it'd be an automatic, oh, terrible, because my husband had to pull the biscuits out every night. So I had to eat them because he had to pull them out. And, it's so bad that he did that. It's his fault. And it's like, but it like let's break this down a little bit. Is it his fault, sort of thing? And I was like, oh well, I told him not to buy them, so they shouldn't even be in the house. And it's just, it's so easy. It's like almost a natural instinct to be like, it's not my fault. It's because this happened or somebody did this. So I think it's actually hard to take that step back and be like, I have to take responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the power of, reacting versus responding, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, it's like, oh, it's his fault. Oh, he didn't take the garbage out, or he bought this, he did this. Okay, how we're not determined by our experiences, where things happen for us, and we get to choose how we respond to it. So if you want to feel angry, then fucking get angry. Great. But if you want to actually move forward and
Yeah.
take responsibility, then okay, cool. Like, I have the power to manage my state right now. Like, no one else has that power.
Mm.
Mm.
It's so cool. And I think I remember one time you were talking in your stories as well, like just shifting that energy as well. Like whether it's releasing it, just like letting that energy, whatever you're feeling as well, just shifting it so you can kind of come back to your clear state of mind to think logically about like what your next move is or like what's actually going on, which I think was really powerful when you shared that as well. I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a thing that I do with my clients as well. And
Mm-hmm.
if you, in the moment, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling sad or whatever it is, like in particular, anger is an emotion that a lot of people deem as wrong, or
Yeah.
they deem as, they could be terrified of it. They could be, or maybe it's become destructive in the past, so they make it mean certain things.
Mm.
However, when we can actually transmute it, essentially, and scream into a pillow, or
Mm-hmm.
scream out in the middle of a park or whatever it is, and just allow that emotion to come out, the lightness and the shit that comes out basically
Mm.
is so liberating. Like, I do it with a lot of my clients. Like, they come to my place and they're like, oh my God, I didn't think I would be doing that. And then, the next week they're like,
So
holy
cool.
fuck, I'm a totally different person. Like, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. It's like all of this emotion is manifested in all sorts of parts in our body. And, it's such a big thing with health, right? It's
Yeah.
emotions, unresolved negative emotions create dis-ease in the body. And so
Mm.
when we don't release them, when we don't feel them, hence, my story as well, like I wasn't feeling my emotions. I even went through, there was a time I got back from South America, and I, at the time, was given the news that I potentially had ovarian cancer. And I had, like, it was a 95% chance. And I remember it was the most, I was like crying on my bed. It was horrible. And it was, that was a massive turning point for me again. And then it turned out that it wasn't. And I had the surgery and whatnot. And it comes back to like these emotions that were, it was a number of other things as well, but these emotions, once again, my gut, like, that's a thing for me, because we hold so much emotion in our gut. When we can release that, oh my God, like, so powerful,
Mm.
like so powerful. And I say a lot of my clients have, come to me and experience certain types of dis-ease in their body, or,
Yeah.
like endo, or, PCOS is quite common and whatnot. And a lot of this is, we get to feel our emotions to be able to release and help that.
Mm. It's so cool. But like,
Mm.
I think it's also, I guess, like until you kind of step into the space as well, you don't really know how much you
No.
can unpack either, all of the different ways that you can actually start to work on yourself. It's,
Absolutely, yeah. It becomes like the layers of the onion. It's just like there's always something. Oh my God, another thing, another thing, another thing. Kind of like,
mm,
but it's great. It's one of the most powerful, liberating journeys you can
mhm.
ever go on. Like,
Yeah.
mindset is you are your biggest asset.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we definitely live in a world as well where it's so easy to compare to others. And then that self
Mm.
comparison almost affects you being able to show up unapologetically yourself, because you're like, oh, well, they're doing it better, or but they're there. So I shouldn't be saying this or doing this type of thing. How do you find kind of
Mm.
breaking that down?
One, everybody goes to the toilet. Stop pedestaling people.
Mm,
Everybody goes to the toilet.
I love
Everybody
that.
gets up in the morning and puts their clothes on.
Yeah.
Stop pedestaling people, because that's putting someone above you, right? And keeping you in the pit. If you were to visualize, someone's up on it, like one of those, what do you call it? Like the boxes when
Oh,
everyone gets
yeah.
like the medals,
First, second,
right?
third. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Podiums,
there
is
you
that what they're
go.
called?
Yeah, podium. There we go. And it's like you're putting people up on that box, right? Up on that
Mm,
pedestal. And you're keeping yourself at a lower level. But know that everybody goes to the toilet. Like
yeah.
everybody has beliefs about themselves. Everybody, maybe they have just been putting in the work, the extra work in their field, in whatever it is that they're doing for a longer period.
Mhm.
And they just keep going. And we're, especially on social media,
Mm.
it's a highlight reel for a lot of
100%.
people. That there are, some people that show the lows as well. However, if you're on social media and you're comparing yourself, and I say social media because it's probably 99% of the people are on it, and obviously the people who are listening to this, you're
Yeah.
watching it through some form of social media, is consume less, create more.
Mm.
Whether you are in business and you just unfollow the accounts that
Yeah.
don't make you feel great, or that make you feel like shit, or that, and then there is a deeper level to that. Then you get to uncover, okay, well, why are they making me feel like shit?
Yeah.
And then you do all the inner work, and then you just get to a point where you're like, nah, okay, this is cool. And then go and create more. Whether you're in business, go and create your own content. Like, stop
Yeah.
looking at other people and do what you want. Do
Mm.
what lights you up. And if you're not in business, if you don't have a social media, then how can you create more? Go and dance, go and move your body. What's creative for you? Go and create a beautiful meal, go and do a workout, whatever it is. Whatever's going to light that creativity, that fun, go and have fun,
Yeah.
and know that everybody goes to the toilet
I love that
and
one.
has their own, like, has their own stuff.
Yeah. And the followers one, I remember you said that once before and I took it literally. I was like, okay, like if I do see something and I'm like, oh, like I was going to create something about that, but now like I have a bit of a block because I've seen what they're posting about it. So now I feel like, what if people don't like my version of it? Maybe like, and there's just all of those thoughts that go through it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to clean out like who I follow to make it so whatever I post is just like coming from within me rather than like seeing someone else. And so I think I had followed like over 600 accounts or something like that.
Amazing.
It has been a game changer. Now when I go on social media, I use it rather than abuse it. Like I go on and I feel everyone I follow like inspires me, motivates me, makes me feel good. And like I just leave having ideas of what to do on my own rather than comparing to what other people are doing.
It's so powerful. And the thing is that if we're comparing to other people or taking on other people's advice, or sorry, not advice, or their ideas and utilizing that, then it's essentially coming from them, right?
Yeah.
And people buy us. People buy, talking from a business perspective, people buy us. People buy our energy. So if there's something that's out of alignment and it's taking on someone else's ideas, people feel that. Like,
Yeah.
you may not think that, but people feel that. People know it, and they might not even know why. But people feel it. They buy you for your energy. So when you can just fuck the noise. When I got to that point, and I was just like, oh my god, like, there are especially in the coaching industry, there are carbon copies everywhere. Like, it's the same kind of post everywhere. And I was just like, oh, like, okay, what's coming from me? What do my audience want to hear? What would I want to hear? Okay, this is coming from me. And when I made that shift, so like, I got people reaching out to me and like, oh my God, your content is this, this, and this. Oh my God, I love this. And I got so much more engagement as well because it's coming from me. Like, I'm human as well. Like, I went through my period of like, oh, this person is doing this, and oh, look at all this and this and this and this and this. I'm just like, oh no, come back to
Yeah.
me. Like, it's
So powerful.
game changer.
Yeah, I love it. Such a shift. And I think even if you're not in business or coach, like, it is something that you can do, is when you do go on your social media, like, how does it make you feel? It, like, and even if it's subconsciously, because I know even when I went on, because I still have like my private account that I had before I even started my business. Even when I used to go on that, I was like, when I would go off it, I wouldn't feel great about myself, whether it was, what I was doing or what I had coming up on the weekend or what clothes I was wearing. Like, did I have the new thing in fashion? And I was like, this is just an awful feeling to have coming off something like that. Like, I don't need to kind of have that in my days or in my life, because every time but it was also kind of like, it was addictive as well to go onto that, to be like, well, am I meeting up to like the social norms or society's needs type of stuff? And I found it really, really triggering. But I think getting to the point of being like, okay, well, I can actually then control what I see.
Absolutely. Totally. Like, yeah, you nailed it on the head. You can control what you see. You have the power to unfollow people. You can choose to see what you want to see on social media. And yeah, when you can get to that point, it's a game changer. It's like, you get stuck in the scroll hole, right? I call it the scroll
100%.
hole. Like, you're just like, oh my God, this is making me feel like shit. Like, but I'm still going. I'm still going. Or it's like, you pick up your phone and the first thing you go to is Instagram, but it's so unconscious because it's so ingrained in you now. So what I do now, or what I've done it for, I can go through stages of it, is I delete my apps a couple of times a day, because it's just like so consuming. So when that's not there, like, when you wake up in the morning and, you go straight to your phone or whatnot, it's not there. It's like, oh, now I actually have to take an extra 5 seconds to download it. But it's interrupting the pattern to be like, no, I know that I'm doing the thing that I said that I was going to do. I don't want to look at social media. Okay, so I'm going to go and meditate instead. I'm going to go and have my cacao or whatever it is. And yeah, that just interrupts the pattern and is powerful.
So powerful. And I think social media is another one that's really easy to pass blame to. Oh, but like, social media this, social media, well, you do have control over it. And like iPhones nowadays as well, you can even go in there and you can actually set times of when you can access the app, or you can set time limits on it as well. So there's so many different ways, like deleting it, but also putting limits on, like whatever you want to do to take that step. If it is impacting you, you can do it. It's crazy. But again, like, you just have to take that responsibility. Another thing, like when it comes to taking responsibility, is I often hear a lot of people talk about like, well, she's lucky, or yeah, but she just, gets X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, like, one thing I guess is, how do you remove those limiting beliefs to then actually get clear on how you want to live your life and take those actions? Because a lot of people will look at other people and be like, oh, well, I want that. But, she's just lucky that she has that because of her upbringing, or because, who she surrounds herself with, or she just got lucky. And it's so easy to, I guess, like, project that onto other people when maybe you aren't clear on what you want in your life.
Absolutely. Choosing to believe the stories that we tell ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it's all just a story. It is all just a story. And okay, if you were to imagine your mind is like the Buckingham Palace, okay?
Yeah.
And or your unconscious mind, it's the Buckingham Palace, and there's a lot of shit that happens at the Buckingham Palace, right? There's a lot. Clearly, you got the royal family doing all the things. Let's say it's a party at the Buckingham Palace, right? And the Queen is in there, but there's the servants, there's the butlers, there's whoever is at the Buckingham Palace, right? And then there's also the security guards at the front, and you want to get to the Queen, which is who you really are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without all of the party goers, without all of the shit. And imagine the party goers and the royal family, or all the thoughts, all the negative thoughts, all the beliefs, all those stories. Oh, she's just lucky. She's got this, blah, 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 blah. And so imagine being able to filter through all of them and to get straight to the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Instead of having to go through all of the butlers and cut past security, that you can just go straight through. And when we can do that, and that's the power of subconscious work, that's the power of doing the inner work and shadow work and all that kind of stuff, is removing all of that shit. And I'm referring to the royal family, and that's probably not a great association. But you're moving through all of the people, you're crawling through the crowd kind of thing to get to the Queen. And you get to the Queen, and that's the woman, that's who you really are, without all of the limitations. Okay. And when you can get to that point, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. It doesn't matter about her being lucky. It doesn't matter about who gives a fuck. Because you got straight to the Queen, and the Queen is you. Without all of and knowing that, there's still going to be party goers every now and then, and you get to have fun with them, and you get to dance and drink and whatever, and then they eventually leave, and then you may have another party, and then they leave, right? So I can't actually even remember your question. I've just kind of gone on a totally different tangent. But basically, the power of removing the limiting beliefs is getting to who you truly are as a person, and fuck the noise outside everyone else. And it's all just a story. When you can stop focusing on everyone else and just focus on you and what you want, you get what you want, instead of complaining and comparing and being in victim mode, comparing to everybody else.
Yeah, it's so true. And one of my friends said to me that she heard this quote, and it was, "Everyone dies, but not everyone lives." And I was like, so true.
Absolutely.
Getting to that Queen and I'm a very visual person, so I loved that analogy of it all. That's you also living the life that you want to be living, because you're showing up as the person that you want to be, which is so cool.
Yes, it's so exciting. It's so liberating when you can just get rid of all of that shit and be like, I'm me. I'm doing what I want. I know what I want. And the power of knowing what it is that you want, instead of just going around in circles or doing what you think society wants you to do, or your family and friends and whatnot, when you come to a deep knowing, a core of fuck, this is actually what I want to do. Well, for me, I'm in a place where it makes me cry. Have a why that makes you cry. What do you want? Oh my God, this is what I want. I'm doing the things, and therefore build your self-confidence, because you're doing the things that you say that you're going to do to get what it is that you want. And if you don't know what you want, then you get to work out what that is. But it's so so liberating.
I 100% agree. Nah, that's so powerful. Now, I have some quick fire questions for you.
Okay, perfect.
First one, what is one thing that you must do every morning to set your day up?
Oh, I'm a rebel, so I don't have the same routine every single day. Of course, I'm going to give you a question and answer like this, but it would be either a mix of meditation, going out for a walk, or to the gym, or having my cacao and doing a visualization.
Yeah, love it. What's one thing that everyone can do every day to improve their life?
Connect to their creativity, to their
Ooh.
creative flow, have fun. And whether that looks like dancing, having a good meal, exercising, whatever it is, just let go, get out of your head and into your body and do something that lights you up every single day.
I love that. I think that's so cool because I was talking to one of my clients the other day and reflecting back on what were some things that she enjoyed doing as a child to like kind of help with de-stressing. And in the end, she came up with playing music while cooking dinner. And she was like, that was the best fucking experience I've ever had. She was like, I felt so
Amazing.
good. And I was like, sometimes it's just the simple things, isn't it? That just like light you up and just like when you connect. And I think sometimes we take such a serious outlook on life all the time. It's like, oh, well, I can't dance around in my kitchen because like I'm an adult. But it's like, no, who the fuck's stopping you? Like, do it.
Exactly, right? We're just big kids
Mm.
that suppressing this inner child that wants to have fun, to be unapologetically themselves, because that's what kids are. They don't give a fuck. And as we get older, all of these societal beliefs and everything, and I could keep going on about this, but it's like these walls, these boxes keep coming.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting. Yeah.
absolutely. What's your favorite quote and why?
Um, two,
Yep.
just do it,
Mm.
Nike, because
Yep.
literally you just go and do it. And two, it's not anyone's quote, but it's something I say to myself is, but did you die? Or are you going to die? So just go do the thing. Like if I get worried about what someone thinks of me or what's going to happen if I do this on social media or whatnot, come back to, okay, well, is it the end of the world? Did you die? No. Okay, cool. Move on.
I love
I know
that
it's a
so
little bit
much.
morbid.
No, I think it's great. I honestly do because it is so easy to get caught up in the small things that are, I guess, stopping you from doing something that you really want to do. When you're right, at the end of the day, like, is it that bad? Like, did anybody get hurt? Did you burn a house down? Are you still alive? Yes, you
Exactly.
are. Like, can't be that bad. And I always say that, like, with a lot of my clients, especially around food as well, when we beat ourselves up so much about what we've eaten, it's like, but you're still alive. You're still breathing. Like, because you ate that extra biscuit or you had extra chocolate, in the grand scheme of things in life, it's not that bad.
Absolutely. It's really not. Like, we complicate things as
We
humans
really
so
do.
much. It comes back to what we make things mean, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, powerful.
Hmm. So, one question that I love to ask all of my podcast guests is in the distant future, when you are looking back at your life, what do you think will be your biggest achievement or one thing that you will be most proud of? And this might be something that you've already done, or it could be something that you are hoping to do in the future.
Mm. When I look back, I'm proud of running my retreats internationally and events internationally. And I've kept my business going, and I'm in a beautiful relationship and with a family. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of the women that I'm working with that have come to
Hmm.
my events that are just owning who the fuck they are. That makes
I
me
love
like
that.
goosebumps and yeah, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, because what a cool impact to be having on people.
Mm.
Like it's literally you're literally changing lives. That's pretty fucking
Mm.
awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. I get exciting.
So tell the audience, do you have anything coming up that you would like to share with them, and where can they find you?
Anything coming up? Well, I'm heading to Bali in the next in the next four
So
weeks,
exciting. Yeah.
which is super exciting. So that's in terms of personally what's coming up. Look, in terms of coaching, I've got a group coaching program that's 4 weeks, and it's all about activating the feminine within you
Mm-hmm.
and owning the woman that you are. And then I've got my one-to-one coaching program, building confidence of a queen, and events will be coming soon, which is really exciting. And
I'll have to keep their eyes
Instagram
open.
is, yeah, absolutely. Instagram is Lauren VENABLES _
Yeah, and I will put that in the show notes as well, so they have easy access to go over and have a look at everything you offer. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I really hope that a lot of the audience get something. I'm sure they will get something out of this and really walk away having some new ideas and aha moments of how they kind of want to live their life and build confidence within themselves. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been absolutely amazing chatting to you, Michaela. Thank you. And yeah, builds the confidence of a queen.
What an incredible episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Naked Wellness podcast. I absolutely love all of the feedback and the aha moments that you guys send me through. So if you did have an aha moment, or you're like, oh my God, that really landed with me today, I would love to hear what it is. So just head over to my Instagram, which is KJ Wellness with 3 S's. Send me a DM, because I really do love connecting and hearing from all of you. But I will talk to you all in the next episode very soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the Naked Wellness podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts and you're feeling extra nice today, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could also leave a review. But you enjoy the rest of the day or the night, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.